Just gonna do a couple things today. I'm gonna check the weight. I've got a 17 round tube with the Tony System +1 base pad on here, and obviously a TLR light. And I just wanted to see what that does for total weight. Remember, IDPA weight limit for carry optic is 45 ounces. So this one's at 40, and I'm gonna add a mag weld to it, which is probably gonna add a couple of ounces, so I'll have plenty of room on here. So that TLR adds a little bit of weight to this, because I think it's 33 or 36. Let's take it off and find out. So without the light, 36. So it's a 4-ounce light, right? So that's kind of a nice add if you're wanting to shoot USPSA or IDPA with this pistol. Now, other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to swap a double action trigger in here and see what happens. I don't think there's going to be any issue with this working because I've already swapped in the competition hammer. Remember, the stock hammer had the double action pawl on the stock hammer was gone. It was a specific single action hammer. So we're going to swap that double in, and I expect it will work just fine because the rest of the components are the Extreme S trigger group off of the 92X performance line of pistols, which frankly is the best part of this new line. Is that trigger group is really fantastic. The other thing, and I don't think I'm going to do this today, but the other thing that is wise to do for me, particularly because I'm running these Tony System grips, which are slightly short on the bottom, because on a standard A4, A3, A4, and on this gun, right, the grips are full frame length, so they keep that dog bone pin captured. This is not a roll pin; it's a dog bone pin, and is, I mean, super easy to push out with just a little bit of pressure. And in fact, under shooting pressure may be enough to just go flying out. So I don't know if I'm gonna do that today, but I'll probably swap that out for a roll pin with tension. So I am gonna release that pin so that I don't have hammer tension to deal with. Just literally just taking out the hammer spring cap and the hammer spring. And then have to take out the slide stop and the trigger pin, and remember to keep your thumb over this top, otherwise the trigger spring goes flying off, and that's an expensive mistake. And I don't remember if I can get this guy out without taking the safety off or not. Well, let's find out. Yes, okay. So now trigger pops right out, and we'll put the double action trigger in, and see the difference in the double action and the single action is the double action has 2 lobes, and the single action, this left lobe, is missing, which is what runs for double action. So I think that's the only difference, that and the hammer that we already swapped. So drop the double action trigger in there, replace my, and what's happening there is the hammer fell back into cocked, so I'm just pushing the sear forward and returning the hammer, and then my my trigger bar goes right in there. Okay, and then remember I start the trigger pin so that you can just see it. I don't know if you can see it. You can just see it down there, and if you watch while I push, it closes that gap. So I'm going to get it to where it's not in the gap. I'm going to set my finger on there. I'm going to drop my trigger return spring, and I actually use the fat end of a punch. And just push it in there and push through. Now, you might want to do that in a plastic bag or somewhere where you're not going to lose shit the first time you do it, because that trigger return spring does tend to go flying off the top. And then my trigger bar spring. Good. So, it's looking pretty good. Let's put the hammer spring back in there. And we now have a double action XI. Now, I'm not going to drop the hammer on this alloy frame as much. I don't even like to do it on the steel frame, but it definitely is cocking. And to decock, just like I do on my 92X performance guns, I just hold the hammer as I pull the trigger. So let's put it back together. Remember, there's a little leg on that spring, and it goes right into that little slot. And you kind of hold it there. So the L, the dog leg on there, you feed into that little trigger hole, that little hole, and you rotate up, and then it drops right down into position. And right here you can see, it's kind of hard to see on the black on black, but right here you can see that the leg of that spring is what keeps the trigger pin in the trigger, captured. Okay. And we can put the slide back on without putting the... So, there you go. 92Xi double action safety. So basically the same fire control as my 92X Performance on an alloy frame at about a 10-ounce savings and about a $600 or $700 savings by the time you look at the difference in price. And this is a nice little pistol. So cool.